Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Good morning. I'm Louise, codependent. This workshop is called Recovery Treasures Behind the Willingness to Receive. Thank you for coming, and I wanted to do this workshop topic because I was really focusing a lot in my recovery on receiving, how I was observing all these blocks I had to actually allowing myself to have the things I pretended I wanted. And I started to observe that my codependency had me having a very high tolerance for pain and a very low tolerance for pleasure. And I would find myself attracted to people who were, who seemed to have no second thought about pleasure. And I'd go, why can't I be like that person? Why do I just so carefully tiptoe through my life, making sure that I don't hurt myself, and, very cautious, very cautious. I actually once wanted to have short hair, and I didn't even have the risk ability to just cut it. I had to get a short wig and pile all my long hair in my short wig and make sure people would still like me before I cut my hair. So I started to notice that even when I wanted to give myself something I wanted, I still needed to check, is it okay with you if I have this? And I was going through life that way, making sure that my loved ones would not be mad at me, or there would be no anger if I gave myself the life I wanted. So I started to say to myself, okay, from now on, I'm going to pay attention to what my needs are, my desires, even secretly, and I'm going to say yes. I'm going to practice saying yes. If someone offers me a lift, if someone wants to help me out with something, instead of me saying, oh, no, that's okay, I can do it all myself, I was practicing a new behavior. So that's what made me want to start focusing on codependency and the ability to give to oneself and receive. My background was that, what it was like for me growing up is I had very young parents who had a successful working partnership and a completely dysfunctional marriage. My father was this very good-looking young man, Sal Mineo-looking guy with a dark side. And my mom played this role of the attractive wife, got her hair done, and they were very enmeshed in their image as a couple. And she was equal to him, and in fact, probably more than, but she turned down her light a lot to enable my father to, be a Svengali. She didn't need one, but she just let him be one so that he had a role with her. And she really turned down her true ability to be autonomous, and she was never financially dependent on him, but she wanted to be everything he wanted her to be. And eventually, his dark side, it's just betrayal and the road that usually happens. And actually, my father is I never thought of him as a bad man at all. He was just a very insecure guy with not a lot of tools and having not had a lot of parenting himself. With a very, I'm lucky because he had a loving heart. eventually, I took a long time to have kids. I went off seeking pretty much fame and fortune. I felt because my parents only related well when they were working, and they put so much on the outside success, not the internal success, that my whole MO for being an adult in the world was, I got to be famous. I got to, I had just grandiose, uncontrolled grandiosity. And I always set these goals impossibly high. I had to achieve, stardom and really set myself up. And it set myself up to always feel like I wasn't up to the task and I wasn't enough and I didn't have what it takes. And the upside of that is I worked so hard for so long that now in recovery I go, hey, I'm pretty good at what I do, because I really just kept pushing and pushing because I never told, my inner parent never told myself that, you're really good at this now. You can ease off a little bit. You can enjoy your life now. So I went through life, kept trying to prove myself. And even now, I still struggle with trying to reprove things I've proven many, many times. I work on giving myself a break to just enjoy who I've become. Anyway, eventually, my qualifying situation was marrying someone and having children. And I loved being a mother, and I loved that I could stop running the circle that I had been running with needing to prove myself out in the world. Suddenly it was okay for me to walk up a hiking trail and throw sticks in water with a toddler. That I suddenly felt fulfilled in life. Then as the kids were growing older, they're now end of elementary school and going into middle school. During that time, I realized that I was quite alone in my marriage and desperately alone, and that I had married an unavailable person. And, I had to look at what's unavailable in me that I picked an unavailable person. I must have wanted a lot of space bringing up my kids, and it always comes back to that issue of shame. If anyone gets up too close and personal and sees me throughout the day, I'm not going to live up. I'm not going to measure up. So our lives were very about externals, about, where we're going, this travel. There wasn't a lot of just being still, enjoying being present. Anyway, I really had a lot of denial going that kept me going in my motherhood and marriage. And it all revolved around this lack of belief in myself. It was, I just invested so highly in the marriage working, and the marriage didn't support my essence at all. I was able to do things that supported me for myself when he was away, kind of in secret, but when he was there, I had to be someone I wasn't in order for him to feel okay. So, to thine own self be true. Anyway, since I got into CoDA 5.5 years ago, it's been quite an amazing change. I mean, when I came in, I was devastated. I was so hurt that my husband left. I had become financially dependent. My identity was completely revolved around marriage and this pretty picture, and our family, where we lived, what we did for a living, all of that. I just really lost sight of me. And even my friends could see me, and they would sometimes see that, a boundary would be crossed verbally, something would be said not nice about me, and I wouldn't even notice that it was happening. So that was the cost of being out of touch with myself and my higher power, is just not even noticing when boundaries were being crossed, becoming so numb to that. But what's happened to me over these years, and I've really been coming regularly, and doing service that I can do. I'm not always on time for meetings, being a single mom, I admit, but I get my butt in the seat. And I get to deal with my shame and go, you know what? I feel ashamed that I'm late, but I'm still going to show up there, and I'm going to, it's better to be there. So what's really changed for me is I was so hurt and so victimized. And I was victimized, but I set myself up. I completely set myself up. I had probably, 100 red flags and got married and had kids. And I believed that I could make it different, that I somehow was all-powerful, and it would be different with me, with this guy. And part of that actually came from my childhood, because my father was manic depressive, and I did have this, I guess, the power of an innocent child. I had this power to get through to him when no one else could. And that was a kind of dangerous message for me as a kid. Like I would go, stop, at 8 years old, and he'd stop. And then he'd walk away, when he was having some episode. So I felt like, oh, I'm his doctor, I'm his mother, I'm his savior. It really, I had moved to London at age 24 because as long as I was where my dad was, I was always going to be his rescuer. And when I left, I moved to another country, I finally started to live my own life. And guess what? He did fine without me. I believed in my self-will, and I believed that I could play God in myself and others' lives. And I had a real problem accepting people as they were. And I really, that's one of my, my relationship inventories is that I know that I didn't accept this man for who he was. And I was just discussing this with someone outside. When they've taken it off the characteristics list, but it used to say codependents like to keep score. And part of keeping score for me meant gathering evidence that this really was a terrible person who had hurt me. And here are all the reasons why. And what we focus on grows. And, that made me a very afraid person, because I started to think, I can never get married because all men cheat and all men do this and all things are this way. And, I refused to look at a balanced view of the humanity of this person I was hurt by. And of all people who I was hurt by, because that was my story, and it was my rock, and I needed it. And then just through working the steps, I would find opportunities where I could fight. I could take this person to task and go, you said that you were gonna, and you didn't, and it's unfair, and or call my lawyer, or, a whole bunch of things that I used to do to try to control my feelings of being powerless. And because of the program, I would find an opportunity where I'd go, what if I did nothing and I just prayed and I waited? And on those occasions, I'd have a day of feeling like I was sitting on my hands, literally, like I had imaginary people pinning me to the wall because I wanted to, just do something. Don't just sit there, do something. And so I did the other thing, which is don't just do something, sit there. And I just started to go, he's a pretty good dad to my kids. And I don't have all the money that I think I should have and I deserve in child support, but, he does pay me something every month, and I have savings, and I'm actually okay right now. And recognizing that the foibles and things like, oh, God, he's going to Japan and it wants me to pack the suitcases. It's not my job to pack the suitcases for his trip to Japan. I would be like that, and hopefully won't get the CD. And I started to be loving, even though it didn't feel natural, by the way. I started to act as if I'd go, okay, sure. What else do you need? Sunscreen? Yeah, I got it. And, you know, just things started to change. I actually started to think, oh, I know why I married this guy. You know, I started to look at a whole other side and go, all those years I was pissed off at him all the time and felt so like a little girl abandoned and never good enough. And my mantra was, what about me? What about me? What about me? And that whole time I looked back recently and I went, I had a guy who was providing for me and my children all those years, and I got to be a stay-at-home mom. You know, I was always complaining about, I need to work too, but I got to spend time with my children. So instead of making everything bad, I started gathering different evidence. And this is kind of funny, but you know, I was fighting in court over money for so long with him, and I'm skipping a whole really important chapter, which was, you know, when he left, he immediately got a new girlfriend, wife, and baby. So that was really hard because my kids were suddenly, that I'd spent all this time with, were going to this new family's house, and I felt totally replaced. But that marriage didn't last more than 5 months. And you know, it's been about 6 months since that marriage ended, and you know, I've been driving this car that's 14 years old, and you know, he's been getting all these new luxury cars, probably 4 of them since he left. And one day he said, I'd really like to lease you a car. And immediately I went, what does he want from me? What money is he hiding in another country that he's trying to pacify me by leasing me a car? You know, I am not going to let him lease me a car. And I thought all that in my head, and I thought, I'm practicing receiving. And I said, okay, yes, I would love that, thank you. Well, he forgot about it. And about 3 weeks later, he said, you know, it doesn't really feel right to lease you the whole car, but I'll split it with you. And then I thought, he's going to control what I get. He's going to control and tell me, you know, what kind of car I should get and all this stuff, and I'm not going to let him. And to my surprise, so I went out looking for cars, and I watched myself go, I can't get that really nice car I really want because people will think this, and I don't need it, and what's wrong with my 14-year-old car? It still runs, and you know. And then I had to sit with myself, which is really where this workshop questions came from. I sat with myself and I went into court and I said, Louise, secretly, what car do you want? Secretly. And I realized I had this belief that I was a better person if I did not show my abundance, that I had to keep it down. And my whole life, I actually have done this. I really have this belief that if I look beautiful, if I'm wearing a nice dress, people will hate me. All the women in my life will hate me, and all the men will be, you know, wanting me for the wrong reasons, not my essence. And I had this belief that even with my talent, much like my mother, I had this belief that my talent in itself was isolating, and that if I really let myself shine, I would have this very lonely, isolated life. Nobody would love me, and I would just make people feel inadequate. So it was my job to take care of everybody else's feelings about who I was. So back to the car. I it's even hard for me to admit what car I went. So I went into a Lexus dealer, and I got the completely, the full-on nice luxury car. It's funny, as it turns out, because I was holding on to my Volvo, I would hire nannies who had drove way nicer cars than me all the time. I go, why does she have a Mercedes? She's our nanny. I am in the wrong business. So anyway, I got this beautiful car, and by me saying yes, I actually allowed myself to feel loved and nurtured by this man who completely, in my mind, had destroyed my life. And I watched how I wanted to continue to feel victimized. My preference was, I want him to continue to destroy my life so I can be right. And if I let him be a nice guy, then I won't be right. And also, driving this car around shows the world that he's a nice guy, and I don't want the world to think that. So the manipulation, the codependent thinking, I realized, oh my gosh, I am not doing myself any favors here. I don't really enjoy pleasure because I'm so afraid I'll be abandoned if I let myself have what I want. And when I'm in pain, it's familiar, and I have a whole story, and I'm right, and I'm a victim, and that's a whole lot safer for me. And if I'm going into the world with those two things going on, what am I going to get? A lot more pain and a lot less joy. So I realized this issue of receiving is huge. I realized that one of my biggest issues is people say, well, okay, complaint. What do you want? What would you like? If you could have anything you want, if you could have the relationship you wanted, if you had the job you wanted, what would your day look like? What would you like? And I just had vagueness when that question was asked. Because it's a muscle. It's a muscle to exercise. You have to go to the gym to get your muscles strong. You can't just sit in a chair and expect to lift weights all of a sudden. The muscle of having a vision of what do I want? What would I like? What would it feel like to have what I want and like? What is my higher power's will for me? What are my gifts? If I let them shine, who would they help? All those questions for me, I felt like you dropped me out of an airplane without a parachute. I can't deal with this. I don't know. I had been so comfortable in the labyrinth, which is a labyrinth, of analyzing everything that was wrong, that I had no muscles for visualizing what I wanted. And the other thing, too, is I was so stuck in the past. Like, I really looked at this rock, this relationship, this thing. That's the world. I was like a mouse in a cage, just trying to put together the answers of my life through what is now. And while part of recovery is accepting reality as it is, that reality is temporary, like everything. It's temporary. That's what is right now, today. And some things we can never change. Can't change your height. Can't change, you can change a lot of things about your body now. Finding out. There are things, can't bring people back from the dead. There are things, we have our serenity prayer to help guide us in the things we cannot change and the things that we can. But the world is infinite, and in a lot of areas, in the same way that forests burn down to the ground, entire forests, and then out comes new life. So in order to make a new chapter and a new life, I had to let go of this old and go, that was that story. That's how it turned out. And I have to look at who I was when I started building that story. And no recovery, unconsciousness, all those traits I talked about earlier, feeling like I was more comfortable with pain than I was, having. So that's the life that made. But now I'm different. And, I find because fear is this thing that we like to carry around with us everywhere to keep us safe and make sure we never, ever get hurt again. Well, I'm carrying fear around for another person. And that person was a person I used to be. Yeah, I should have been afraid back then, going through life the way I was. But I don't have to carry that old Louise's fear into my life now because I have a higher power. I have a relationship with a higher power. I can trust myself. I have program. I have a sponsor. I have people I can call. I have prayer and meditation. I'm not going to go full on into decisions anymore like I used to. So I feel the fear and I say, thank you, that would be nice. I'd love that. Or not, depending on what I'm being guided to do at the time. So what I wanted to start with is just, first of all, I want to read the preamble because I think it's so important as a start point to remember why we're all here. And I have it here on my iPad. By the way, I'm paying absolutely no attention to the time, so I think maybe I should start doing that. Okay, the preamble. Codependence Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women whose common purpose is to develop healthy relationships. The only requirement for membership is a desire for healthy and fulfilling relationships. We gather together to support and share with each other in a journey of self-discovery, learning to love the self. Living the program allows each of us to become increasingly honest with ourselves about our personal histories and our own codependent behaviors. We rely upon the 12 steps and the 12 traditions for knowledge and wisdom. These are the principles of our program and guides to developing honest and fulfilling relationships with ourselves and others. In CoDA, we each learn to build a bridge to a higher power of our own understanding, and we allow others the same privilege. This renewal process is a gift of healing for us. By actively working the program of Codependence Anonymous, we can each realize a new joy, acceptance, and serenity in our lives. So, I also, when I was thinking about receiving, realized, why don't I like to receive? Why does it feel better to go out to dinner and pay than, why do I have a weird feeling every time someone wants to pay for dinner? And I realized that when I'm in a position of giving, I feel in control. I'm the giver, I'm controlling, and that receiving feels like this powerless position. And it scares me, because when I feel powerless, I start thinking, oh no, what's going to happen? So I realized that there was this imbalance. A fulfilling relationship has to do with reciprocity. I can't believe I remembered that word. I always forget it. Reciprocity, give and take. And I realized I'd like to give more. So I'd like to find people who needed a lot. And then I'd be pissed at them that, oh, it's a one-way relationship. But I'd go in that way because I felt, hey, I'm smart. I'm resourceful. I can fix this. And when I fix this, you'll value me because I'm really so indispensable in your life. And I realized, well, I got to practice doing the other side and allowing a person to feel valued for what they can do too. So I thought, okay, I need to be able to both receive as well as give in my relationships. So I have an exercise, the first exercise. I had to get this down really condensed. Some of you will have some that are 2 pages, which will have some blank pages in between. But if you have one of the ones that don't have pages, does anyone need paper or a pen? Okay. I have 2 pens.
Not everybody has this yet.
Oh, not everybody has them. Okay. There's some in the back. These are the ones you brought, but they're not folded. Thank you so much. Scott is going to be of service and pass them out to anyone who doesn't have it. But I have 2 pens here, and I have some paper. So if you raise your hand, I'll come by. You need paper? So the first question I have here, when I actually read this question, I have a really uncomfortable feeling. Again, I feel like I am flying without a parachute. This question, with my codependent makeup, actually fills me with fear. And the question is, write 3 things you really want, but are afraid to admit you want. And I will give you 3 minutes to write it down. So you have a minute per thing you secretly really want. Can anyone raise their hand if they'd like to share what that was like for you? Answering those questions and sharing this. Anybody want to say anything? Scott?
Scott, codependent. Hi, Scott. I thought it was interesting that the person who, and she and I were sitting and sharing this stuff back and forth, and the 2 very similar things were something about financial security and having a relationship or a partner, another person. And it was just, I'm just wondering, like, how many people had that?
He's asking how many people had financial security and a relationship, a healthy relationship.
Wow.
Have. Want.
Okay.
Okay, so that's coming. That's a common thing.
And my thing was to get a career in either photography or the business I created, which is a baking. I invented something, and I'm scared to move forward. I've been in the computer industry for 25 years. This is a change, and one that my Jewish mother is just like, "Oh, you're gonna do what?"
Right.
Anyway, I'll give you back the mic.
Thank you. I realized when I was working with Sharon here, because we were partners, I realized that when I asked you to write down the feelings you would have, but by the way, Scott, what feelings did you have if you imagined yourself having that baking? Come back.
A feeling like I'm living my dream, because photography has been my dream since I'm about 7 years old, and the baking thing started in '93. And it would feel like I'm living my dream. And having financial security would mean that I would be less worried about my future, having a retirement, available to me. So.
Is it worth your mother being mad about it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I realized there were 2 sets of feelings. Thank you, by the way, Scott. There were 2 sets of feelings. There were the feelings I had when I imagined myself having what was on my list, but there was the feeling I had right now of saying I wanted it, which was a whole bunch of different feelings than the feeling of actually being on the other side of it. And, it's just anxiety. I mean, I'm not that person who has that kind of stuff. I don't have that. That's other people, and I need to be dependent on those people to get that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of voices, beliefs, limiting beliefs, fear, discomfort. And I want more people to share, but I wanted to say something else. There's a book that's been around for years that's helped me a lot. It's called The Artist's Way. It's written by Julia Cameron. Inside that book, she has something called a jealousy map. And jealousy is always something I've really been uncomfortable with. Mine and other people's jealousy, both, I don't even want to go there. It's just ugly, and I have no control over it, and I hate myself when I feel it, and all that. But she had a really interesting point that when you do a map of what you're jealous of or who you're jealous of, it's really valuable information about what you want. And people often don't look at it as information because the minute the information comes in, the belief immediately comes to say, well, you can't have it. And therefore, I can be jealous of you if you have something I want and I know I can't have it because I'm not good enough or I'm not capable of that. Then I can be mad at you for having it because I don't have it too. However, if I look at it like, that's good information. I want to go to Hawaii. I want those shoes. I want to wear shoes that look like that. But I'm afraid because my mother told me that if I wore shoes like that, people would think I'm or whatever. Just, my sister once said to me, I was wearing this fantastic dress that this designer had in her studio. It was like just a one of a kind. She said, I can't sell it because it's a little off here on the bias, but you can wear it to the party tonight. And this was 25 years ago. I put on this dress and my sister said, maybe people would take your music seriously if you didn't wear a dress like that. So I went, I took that into my rocks. And anyway, what people say is all about them. And it's not my job to control or rescue what other people feel about me. And I can't do it very well. I never have been able to. So, and another thing I want to share is a long time ago I came across another book, and I can't remember the author, but it was about how to upgrade an addiction to a preference. So if I have an addictive need that, if he does not take the trash out tonight, that is proof he doesn't care about me. Because I have asked him, and it's a passive-aggressive way of him to say he does not value me or my requests. I'm addicted to that outcome.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
But this writing that I did with this book was all about this is why I asked you, what is the feeling you have when you have this thing? Because it is the feelings that we're after. Even with an alcoholic, it's the feelings you're after. It doesn't work, but cup of coffee, every addiction we have, there is some reward. It's a hormonal reward. It's, it changes our state. So if we're not feeling good enough and some activity gives us a feeling of power or, being valued, if you can look at the feeling that you get from some of the things that you want or some of the addictions where you're spinning like I'm just obsessive and I have to have this outcome and nothing else will do it for me, look at what feeling you'll have from having that. And then you can work backwards and think of, what are a whole bunch of other things that would and might give me that feeling? And then you can put that addiction as a preference. I prefer to have a cup of coffee in the morning. It's warm, it smells good. But there might be some other hot drink I can have that will do that effect. So that's something to think about. Now what I wanted to move on to, actually, I didn't ask if there's anyone else who wants to share about that exercise. Yes. We have two. You first? Hi, Michelle.
My name is Michelle,
Hi, Michelle.
and this exercise has actually helped me to realize what I wanted, because I'm thinking normally I would want like the superficial things, items, abilities, but all of mine have to do with relationships. Mine is a relationship with myself and the fact that I can be myself, a relationship with someone special who I can treasure and they can treasure me back. and then a relationship with my higher power, God, and not caring what other people think about me, because I hear about all this stuff with in the news about someone being against Christians, someone being against Catholics, just all the negative views, and that puts me in a situation where I'm like, I want to hide who I am and not be just free to be myself. And what I would feel afterwards, I would just, there's so many things on here, just feel special, wanted for who I am, freedom, and self-confidence, is which I'm severely lacking in, and knowing where I stand and being able to keep that stance without crumbling under peer pressure.
Thank you. So that was, Michelle was sharing about relationships. I'm repeating it because the man who does the recording said that mic doesn't go direct to recording. We hear her, but the recording doesn't hear her well. So I'm paraphrasing it for the sake of the recording. Michelle was sharing that it was relationship with herself, relationship with another person, and in a peer group. Did I get that right? Am I?
No, it's like with this, with a special someone I can be close with without, being so enmeshed in them.
I see, a special someone without being enmeshed. And it's interesting because I think, again, and by the way, I remember the author's name is Ken Casey. It was a book called, A Handbook to Higher Consciousness. It's some 70s Big Sur kind of book. And the point is if you can get to the feelings that having those things would give you and work on getting those feelings first, oftentimes when the need isn't desperate to have some external thing to give you those feelings, and the feelings of, I already feel special, I already feel unconditionally loved, and all that's going to come from a relationship with the higher power. The thing itself isn't so obsessive often. It's like, yeah, I would love to have that, but if I don't, I can have this instead. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bernie.
Hi, Bernie.
I found it interesting, all of the feelings that came up as you asked us to do the exercise. And the first one was a lot of shame. And then as I started to write, a critical voice of, how could you want that? And, oh, you're superficial, or, it was just the criticism, the internal criticism. And then when you asked us to get a partner and share with a partner, I was like, what? The fear that came up of even sharing with someone. But then, once I shared, it was very freeing, because it's just like in meetings, like the healing comes from the shared experience and realizing I'm not alone, that others have had similar experiences and want similar things. But I just found it interesting, my own internal dialogue that started to happen when you asked us to do the exercise.
Thank you so much. Bernie? Bernie, thank you. Yeah, Bernie was sharing that just to say what she wanted, immediately there was this whole bunch of voices coming to have opinions about it. And that is, and it is a little bit like a fifth step, exposing ourselves to another human being, who we are, and where do these ideas come from of I want? I mean, if I feel it in my body, and it's, I feel it in my core of I want this, or I get excitement at the idea of having it, even a little fear, that doesn't feel superficial to me. That feels like it's coming from somewhere where part of me is happy. I came here to Palm Springs last weekend because it was Father's Day, and my kids were with their dad, and I thought, I don't want to sit around my house on Father's Day by myself, and I'm going to drive to Palm Springs with my dog. And it's interesting, my head was one place analyzing, but my little girl, Louise. When I was where I took myself, I went, oh, she's happy. She likes this. She likes it here. And I suddenly felt like I was listening to her. She was like a little girl going, you took me to Palm Springs, yay! And I try to get that feeling. Like, it's harder to give to myself, but if I pretend there's a little child in there that I'm doing it for, it's a little easier for me to do it. It's a creative way for me to give to myself. And she goes, yay! I want to go have some ice cream too. Let's go, you know. So that's, you know, you can't judge that. And that's a good place to go sometimes. Is there anyone else who'd like to share their experience? Birgit?
Hi, my name is Birgit. I'm a codependent.
Hi, Birgit.
I am in recovery for almost 10 years, and I mean, the concept of standing up for myself and telling, or just like, well, being honest about my needs. I mean, that's a concept it's not new for me, but I still struggle with it. After 10 years of recovery, I related to the car story. I had to get a new car since my old one broke down. And it was the drama of my life. My fiancé wanted me to have a car with a lot of airbags because he wants to protect me, right? And I just wanted to have that $2,000 car. And so anyway, I have a supercar now. Actually, it's fully loaded and has all the airbags in the world, and I feel really, really good about it. And you know, with everything in my life that I know where it's coming from. My mom was a very jealous mom, and so you know, every time I wanted something, she wanted it, or she deserved it, but I didn't. And my father was very selfish. So anyway, it's still, you know, in me, but I've learned to put it out there. I mean, for me, it's really helping me to put it out. Saying I want to have a baby, that's a big step for me. I mean, for the longest time, I didn't really feel I would be able to. I could only pass on the crap that I was raised with. So it's been yesterday that I put it out there for the first time. And I know that if I speak it out loud, and you know, I get input and I get encouragement and support, that eventually I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna get used to the thought, and then all of a sudden it's like, so acting as if, and then all of a sudden it takes its own, it's just like dynamic, and then it's all of a sudden it's like it's going to happen. And every time I had the guts to pull through, I mean, it's such a great feeling to really have what I want. And I appreciate your workshop and by the program. More and more I get the life that I want. I'm very, very grateful for that. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, we have a lot to get through now in a half an hour, so I'm gonna. But that was fruitful. Thank you for all your participation. So I thought, aside from my limiting beliefs and negative thoughts, aside from them, that's quite a lot in itself, what gets in the way of me receiving my higher power's will for me, knowledge of it, the power to carry out, and all the abundance that all God's children deserve. So this is just a partial list of some character defects that I have acted out, and it's only a partial list, and it takes up the whole page. Self-will, control, fear, manipulation, attachment to people, places, and outcomes, and using others to gain value and esteem, outside focus, not noticing what I have that's good, focusing on problems and lack, neglecting myself, rescuing others, worrying, caretaking, minding other people's business. I should have put gossiping in here. Avoiding, analyzing, limiting beliefs about self and others, repressing my feelings, repressing my desires, comparing myself to others, not being in the present, gathering evidence to support my beliefs. Approval seeking. Is it okay with you if I allow myself to have this? Will you still love me? Will you still like me? Seeing self as less than. I can't have that. I'm not good enough. Those things don't happen to me. Seeing myself as better than. I don't need that. I'm better than that. Seeing self as not deserving. Overeating. Ingratitude. That was a big one for me. When I would get things, just go, yep, thanks. Possessiveness. When I'd get things, it's like, and it's mine, and I'm never letting go. Expectations, overworking, love and sex addictions. Limiting attitudes about abundance. I'm a better person if I have less. Self-will. I want what I want when I want it. Refusal to let go. Perfectionism. This is a huge one for me. I'll let myself have this once I've that. 20 years later. Making others our higher power and expecting them to provide. Wanting too much all at once so it never feels like enough. I am the woman who wants it all. Obsession. Blaming. Playing victim role, shaming ourselves or others, or allowing others to control us with shame. Are there any others you could add? Okay, I added gossip. So I can stay pretty busy not having what I want, doing all those things. And I could stay pretty busy not knowing what I want doing those things. And I can stay pretty busy not knowing what I feel doing all those things. That list is a full-time, tireless, exhausting, codependent, horrible job description. So I've got to work step 6 and 7. And I don't know why, but 6 and 7 work. I mean, there is no scientific evidence as to why it works, but steps 6 and 7 work on a defect. My God box works. It's a crazy thing. I mean, when someone said, well, are you willing to let go of that defect? Are you willing to let go of that behavior? I go, well, no. Well, why aren't you? Well, because I get this payoff for it. I feel this and this and this when I do that defect, and I need to feel like that right now. Okay, so you're not ready to let it go. A month later, I'm done with this defect of character. I just can't do it. It's making my life miserable. It's making the people around me miserable. I'm goodbye. Okay, so I'm willing. And then I humbly ask God in the next step to remove this defect of character. I write it down, I put it in my God box, and I tell you every time, within 2 weeks, I don't even notice it, and I go, hey, what happened to that defect? I did it recently with my ex. I just realized I'm sick of resenting him. I am so bored of my story, and I am so bored of my resentment. It's really, I don't like the person I am carrying around all this resentment. And I need my liver for another 50 years, and I just don't want to stick it in there either. So I knew, pray for the person, and I just made up a prayer. I said it. I said, okay, I'm pretty pissed off at you, but someone told me this is going to work, and I'm going to do it anyway. And I said a prayer. And then I wrote down, dear God, please remove all my feelings of resenting this person. I don't want to feel this resentment anymore. Put it in my God box. And I just don't feel it. I can't believe it, but I don't. I go, oh, that man was so unskilled. And God, did he do things in such a messy, hurtful way. And by the way, I did too. That was nasty. That hurt. And now I feel like, but I'm not there. I'm here now. So it works if you work it. So working the steps and working on the defects of character is like moving out those big boulders where you want to plant seeds in your garden and nothing is growing, and you think, it's me, I'm not good enough, my trees don't grow, my flowers don't grow, and everyone else's do. Move the boulders, and they're the defects. And meditate, pray, and ask yourself, what do you want instead of what do you not want? And till the garden and make it ready, and it will come. So I wanted to ask you to look at your recovery and what positive changes that you've already made to move closer to receiving God's will and power to carry that out. And this is a loving God. This is not the old codependent gods that say you get less than everyone else. This is the loving God that you're a child of, and you get it all. You don't get less than others who have. If you could take some time to write down some of the positive things you've already done to move toward that. I'm only going to give a minute for this, and then we'll have sharing in the room. Okay. Would anybody like to share on things that you've already done? And if you don't mind, I think it would be better if you came up to the podium so that I didn't have to paraphrase what you said. Are you saying yes? Okay. Come on up.
My name is Richard. I'm codependent. I've taken 2 trips to Hawaii in the last year because I was always in that mentality, someday I'll do it when. And finally I realized life was too short. I created my music fake book so I can sit down at my keyboard and play music for about 2 hours. So I have a whole repertoire of music that I love to perform that I never had before. I bought a new car when my house sold. Now that's one of those, I should have bought it 2 years ago because my old car cost me about $9,000 in repairs, but I couldn't afford the new one, right? So I was in that mindset. So it just happened. I bought the car before the house sold, and then miracle, the house sold. Imagine that. And then on February 25th, that young lady back there, I asked her to sit at my table where she was performing at a local restaurant. And oh my God, how could I possibly do that? She's way too cool. And she actually sat down with me, and we've been hanging out ever since. So thanks.
Thank you, Richard. That's wonderful. Come on up. Yeah.
I'm Don. The best thing I've done for myself since that I can ever remember doing is I found a men's group that I meet with once a week, and we share these types of, I've shared things and gone places I never thought was even possible. That's the best investment that I can make in myself and my family and everything else, because it has changed everything. As a result of that, I believe I'm lovable, and I never felt that until I started doing this work. And as a result of that, I use these tools. I meditate. I mean, I see it all over everyone. And it has given me the peace that I never thought was ever possible. So I highly recommend it. It's the best investment I ever made in myself and my life and everyone who's around me. So that's all I got.
Sorry. Okay, I'm going to bend over. My name is John, and I'm a recovering codependent. Hi, John. So I wrote 3 positive things I've done in recovery. I don't always do these 100%, but they're way better. One is making my own choices with people and staying with them. That's before Codependence Anonymous. I didn't even know that was possible. 2, I wrote, seeing myself as I truly am and loving and accepting myself no matter what. That's the most important one. And I wrote, feeling and seeing my needs and wants and taking action on them and letting go of the outcomes. That's a higher power one. That's a really tough one for me, and I am getting better at it. So, thanks.
My name's Kathy. I'm codependent. And I've been in CoDA about 4 years, and the changes that I've made are I listen to my gut. Now I learned over the years to disregard it, talk myself out of that it mattered. So I'm listening to my gut. I talk about my feelings. I'm no longer willing to stay in a relationship that wasn't good for me. I asked my husband to move out March 1st, and he did. I am staying in recovery. I attend meetings, read literature, talk program. I'm committed to that. And probably since February, what I added to my repertoire and my history is being an atheist is I get down on my knees every night and pray for guidance and assistance and show me the way. And I start with 5 things that I'm grateful for each night, and it works. It works. Thank you.
My name is Michael. I'm a codependent. I came up with quite a few things. The one thing that my mom taught me when I was a kid, that you pray every night before you go to bed. And if you thank God for the things that you have, then it's easier when you want to ask for something that he'll probably give it to you the more you thank him. So I learned at an early age that gratitude was a good thing, so I kind of put that in my program as much as I can on a daily basis. One of my first sponsors told me that if you're full of gratitude, it's hard to live in fear, and I'm conscious of that. It's hard to be in both places at the same time. And one of the other things is I engulf myself with as much positivity as I can. You know, I've learned that every cloud has a silver lining, and some of the clouds are pretty dark, so it's hard to find that lining, but it's there. So everything, I try to turn it around as much as possible, even though we live in sometimes out there it's a negative world and you're around negative people. So it's really a challenge sometimes, but I keep continuing working on that. And I try to keep as much of a constant conscious contact with my higher power as possible. And then the last thing is if I'm feeling down or something like that, I kind of like try to get in touch with that inner child, and I try to ask them what you want today. Do you want feel like going to the fair? You feel like going to a movie? Feel like having ice cream sundae? Whatever the case may be, or just feel like sitting in front of the TV, and it really, really helps me a lot. So those are the things I've used. Thanks.
Wow, that's all such great experience, strength, and hope, and good ideas. Thank you all for sharing. I need to move on because we've run out of time and haven't gotten to everything. What I did want to say, it was earlier in the pamphlet. Where can I find it? It has to do with trust. In our book, it says, who can we trust? Now, receiving, again, as I said earlier, is the receptive role. It's a feeling of powerlessness because you're not in control. And the issue of trust for me comes up. Can I trust this? Can I trust this offer? Can I trust this gift? Suspicious minds. What's behind what intention is behind this? I talk to my higher power to find out how it feels. But this is from the Blue CoDA book. And this is important. On page 107, it says, learning to trust others appropriately doesn't happen until we're able to trust ourselves and our higher power. These relationships need to be in order first, so that we're better able to understand the trustworthy behaviors of others. This enables us to develop trust within our relationships. So when we get to a relationship with ourselves and our higher power, then we can more safely go out into the world and have trusting relationships with others. The person who just spoke about gratitude, thank you for bringing that up. One of our characteristics is, it's in my longer list. Well, I might be paraphrasing because I don't have the list in front of me, that codependents have trouble receiving compliments. If anyone knows the exact wording of it. Nope. Okay. So, yes, codependents have trouble receiving compliments. So that's a form of gratitude. And, what I find, okay, so I pick up these dramas. That's been my style. I like dramas. I like things that take me out of myself. Well, I no longer do. And while I have lots of information and lots to talk about and lots of fires to put out and lots of people to blame, I have to look underneath that. What is the payoff of me picking dramatic, addicted, needy, unreliable people in my life? It is that I have so much crap to take care of that I don't get to this place of actually asking myself who I am, what I want. So why don't I do that? And again, it's like working backwards. Well, the evidence shows that I must not believe that I'm worthy of it. And I don't ever have to find out that I'm not worthy of it because I'm just going to pick up some drama that say, I'm sorry, I can't go to a meeting. I've got this guy who's got an emergency and I got to drive him to the hospital. I hear that all the time in program. People they have really good reasons not to work on their recovery. And I was someone who picked up these really good reasons where I was very needed and could not be available to myself. So one of the things that I want to do is help you move backwards to before these painful situations in your lives. And obviously the ones as children are not our fault. And for a while, they're not our fault, as the autobiography we heard last night. Where would we be if we created space in our lives? If we didn't clutter our lives with problems and dramas, and we made space, and we were rested and had stillness, and we could plant our life like a garden, and we could plant whatever we wanted in it. So I think a really good exercise for that is working on accepting compliments. Because it's a two-way conversation. That is a gift. That's a way to practice receiving. Someone is giving you a gift. Now, how do you reciprocate when someone gives you a gift? I did a little research on this. Here it is. Codependents are embarrassed to receive recognition, praise, or gifts. So I don't think we have time to do the exercise, actually. What time is it? We have a minute. Okay. So I'm gonna just give you a few things to go away with. And also what I'm gonna do is I have the pamphlets that you have, but I also, the booklets, but I have an extra credit page. And I'm going to make copies of it, or actually I'm going to ask someone else to make copies of it. Not you, Scott. I won't ask you to do it again. Thank you. Scott very graciously made copies of the flyer from his home and brought them here. So thank you so much for that. But if you can go away with this, think about compliments. Think about gratitude. I want you to think about the people in your lives and write it down. Write a compliment down to people in your lives who you haven't told something nice to. If they were here, what might you say to them? Like, Scott, I really appreciate how thoughtful you were to support me in my workshop by making the copies I needed. Thank you. That meant a lot to me. It's a little extra stretch. It feels like an extra stretch because we're so used to looking down. Everything's bad, It's a way to open. It actually opens opens this part of us to look up and notice. And notice what other people, and how God is already giving us lots of stuff all the time. And we're so focused on, I need that outcome, I need that outcome. We don't see it. So I want to help you see how much you're already receiving and maybe not noticing. So I want you to notice some of the things you're receiving from people and write down a compliment. And if you feel inspired, you could actually tell them, but you don't have to. It's your choice. And then I want you to write a bunch of compliments to yourself, 5 at least. And if you have a buddy here who you trust, you can really trust all the CoDA buddies in the fellowship, give them your list and ask them to tell you your compliments to yourself and let it in. It will hurt because it's not something that we're used to. When I say it will hurt, I just mean it's uncomfortable to receive a compliment, and especially 5 really good ones all at once. But these are the muscles that I think that if I exercise more, I have bigger smiles on my face. I have a bigger smile on my face. I'm happier. And I realize that a lot of stuff that I am complaining about not having in my life is actually in my life already. And I am attached to whatever story I'm carrying around. And this is the break out of the story. Come on. Come on. The new you is already here. And here's a few things you can go off with, because I'm now going over by 30 seconds. To practice, here's some ideas for accepting compliments. A few things you could say are, thanks. It's so nice of you to notice. I really appreciate that. It meant a lot to me. How sweet of you to say that. It's great to hear such encouraging words. How lovely of you to acknowledge that. You made my day. Okay, thank you all for coming. I wish you all to have all the abundance in your dreams that you wish for. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.